we do have an opportunity for some questions and answers. And does anybody need a card or have a card they want to turn in?
So I've got quite a handful of cards here. I've tried to group them. Can you hear me? That's the question. No. Okay. So I'll start off with some evacuation related questions. And so one of them is kind of starting from first principles. When we do know it's red flag. Am I using the microphone? There. Thank you so much. When it is red flag weather, what should we do differently? So yes, we should be ready. We should keep an eye. We're using our apps. What else might we do differently around our home?
I don't know. These are not working. What we can do around our home. So if it's red flag, what I would do, and what I would recommend you doing, thank you, is you prepare. And how do you prepare? You start pulling in all your cushions from your furniture, your outdoor furniture. You bring in your floor mat. You close your windows. You close your skylights if you have those skylights that open. Those are nice. You take anything that's combustible away from your home. 5 feet. Zone 0. You get your go bag. You go, oh, is everything in there? Okay, cool. I'm going to go put it in my car. And then you look at your apps and you make sure your phone's not on silent. There. That's what I would do. Just get prepared. And you just, you're aware, you're ready to go. You talk to your loved ones, you have a plan. And when you get those warnings, you leave.
A related question. When we do leave, how should we leave our house? And also, is there anything we should do to let you know we've left?
That's a great question. So I'm going to put on my firefighter, why I'm always a firefighter, I'm going to put on from an operational perspective, okay? A lot of you probably have wood gates. When you do leave, what I would ask is you will take your pet with you, for sure. Open your gates. When we talk about Zone 0, there's the theory behind it, and it's not theory, it's been proven, is that fire looks for pathways. It looks for pathways to come and crawl towards your house. A gate is a perfect pathway, a combustible gate. If you open the gate, what does it do to the pathway?
Stop it.
Breaks it, yeah, it stops it. One of the things that we do in operations, if we're prepping a home before the fire hits, we'll grab our chainsaws, I'll direct my firefighters, drop that fence. They'll just go cut and push it over. You've already mitigated that pathway, that one problem that has burned down many homes. So that's one thing you do. In regards to letting us know, it's challenging. You may have multiple cars, but don't worry about letting us know. Just leave. We'll be coming knocking on doors, and then we'll be going to your backyards deploying hose lines.
Do we lock our houses?
I would lock your house.
Yeah.
Because if we have the ultimate lock buster, which is our Halligan bar, if we need to get in, which we don't really do, we'll wait. We'll make our way in.
Last question on this theme is about neighborhoods where there's only one way out of the neighborhood. And the question references AB 747 or AB 2911. Can you explain where those studies are and what's going on?
Sure, those are considered at-risk subdivisions. If you live in those, so we're aware of them, and every 5 years we update the maps. They're managed by the state of California. Those are the one way in, one way out, and what we're focused on doing is protecting those evacuation corridors. Has anybody seen us around with this trailer and we're spraying the weeds on the side of the road? We've been doing it over here by Montezuma. Alvarado Estates is an at-risk subdivision. Be extra prepared. Have your stuff in the car ready to go. Any sign of a fire within 5 miles with the wind in your direction, I would just consider leaving there. Have a place to go. It's tough because there's a lot of canyons, especially with that fire we had in Montezuma. There was a lot of gridlock. A lot of people were stuck, and that's a big deal. As a fire department, we're focused on that. We're aware of these subdivisions. They're mapped, and we focus our efforts on maintaining those corridors.
with the new WUI code, the California WUI code that just came into effect. And I can explain if you guys want to understand like how these codes work and how we amend them and adopt them if you want. But it's given us the ability to go 20 feet from the roadway to protect those corridors. And we're aware of that, and that's part of our plan on how we can do more proactive brush clearing.
Thank you. All right, the next questions start to be about what should be in our zone 0, okay? And they're pretty specific. So I'll just do a couple of them all together. Are there any fire-safe plants? What should we replace wood fences with? And what are the requirements for decks?
Perfect. We'll start one at a time. Yeah, there are fire-resistant plants. Put it this way, everything burns. Metal will burn at a high enough temperature. But if you go to your nursery, like when we did the home ignition zone class, the defensible space inspector class, we went down to the nursery. One of them, I'm not recommending them, but when I asked them, hey, where's your fire-resistant plant section? They're like, yeah, come right over here. They're well aware of this. They're well versed in this. And if you go to these nurseries, Terrabella's one of them, they will guide you to what you should be looking at and planting. Okay. Now, the second question was regarding fences. What we would ask of you is, once this code becomes into effect, maintain the current fence. Exposed wood, this thing called punking is when it starts to, like, if you grab it and it starts to dissolve in your hands, it's called punky. I didn't know that. I had somebody to go, oh, that's cool. Maintain your fence. That punky is very susceptible to ignition, but when it's time to replace your fence, replace it with a non-combustible fence. That's going to be a steel fence, something that can't burn. That's what the code's saying. That's what we want to do. We want to plan that out in the future when it becomes that time. So just go with non-combustible steel fence. And the deck, okay. The fire code, so the decks are interesting. There's different types of decks. There's decks that are low to the ground, there's decks that are elevated. If you're going to harden your home and you're going to harden your deck, the code states that the deck should be built with heavy dimensional lumber. When you get to the 4x4 section, that is heavy dimensional. If you can't rebuild your entire deck, what you can do is a couple things. You can sheet underneath your deck. You can use a 1 hour fire rating is a 5/8 inch plywood. You can sheet underneath your deck that will protect it from any type of intrusion of fire early in the incident. Another thing you can do with your deck, if it's lower to the ground, like let's just say this deck, instead of having this skirt here, you would use a fine mesh. We're looking at 1/8 of an inch mesh, and you can surround it. What that does, it prevents embers from accumulating under the deck. In regards to those decks that you have in your backyard, don't store anything under there. Take all that stuff out and do regular maintenance. If there's leaves that blow under there, clear it out. We just want to make sure that we have bare soil that is combustible underneath your deck.
I have a feeling that people want to know a lot of things about fences, so we might circle
Sure.
back to that later. But here's a really relevant one I've heard from a lot of people this evening. If you get one of these fire safety surveys, can the results be used against you in some way?
No.
Does it matter who does it?
No. So the thing is, when we come out and we do, so we have a program called, it's a home risk assessment. It's really affordable, in my opinion. It's about $163 or so. You can go to the website and request it. We will come out and conduct a home inspection, home assessment. An inspection leads to enforcement. That's not what we're doing. We'll come out, we'll identify your zone 0, your zone 1, the vulnerabilities of your house. We'll provide you a report that is just for you, so you can take action and create your plan on how you're going to mitigate some of these vulnerabilities.
How do you get that?
It will be emailed to you. Oh, how do you get the service? You go to our website. If you go under Wildfire Prepared, there's a section, and you can go and you can select Request a Home Risk Assessment. And if you ever have any questions, go to your Fire Safe Council leadership, and we can facilitate all of that good stuff. and they're here to help. You could probably even go to a different Fire Safe Council leadership. If yours is not answering your email, go to another one. They're all willing to help. It's awesome.
It's true, it's true.
Does that include home hardening when you're doing it?
Yes.
As we're talking about the home hardening, and defensible space and zone 0, does this apply only to people in the high fire severity zones? Or should we consider it if we live a few doors down or a few blocks down?
That's a great question. So if enforcement becomes a thing, and I'll get into the city's stance after we answer these questions. This is what we know. We know that embers can fly up to 5 miles. So going back to one part of the question was, is this only applicable to the very high fire severity zone? And the answer is yes. But common sense states that embers can fly 5 miles. So if you're 1 or 2 houses down, you may be exposed to these embers. So really quick, talking about the very high fire, the severity zones, that fire hazard severity zone map, there's a lot of those. The words are really long. But regarding what that is, CAL FIRE pulled a lot of data points. They looked at topography, wind conditions, historic fires, housing density, all these things. And then they took the worst case scenario, the 5% of them, and they said, hey, of the worst case scenario, who's going to be affected the worst? And that's where they came up with these zones. They created a base map, and then that map was shared across the state. The cities receive, the local responsibility area will take that map, because we know our jurisdiction better than the state does, and we incorporated a buffer from these canyon rims. Some of these canyon rim homes were not even in the map, and we know that, hey, the fire in the canyon, there may be an encampment down there, and the likelihood of a fire is fairly high. The ember cast is going to come over. So we're going to create a buffer. We created, I believe it was a 300-foot buffer to encapsulate some of those areas and those islands. But going back to it, if you're within 5 miles of potential wildfire, some of these things will make sense. And a lot of it comes down to just basic maintenance.
Next few questions are about trees. So, first of all, a common one, what about my neighbor's trees? But also, the next card asks about zone 1 and zone 2. If you're going out to 100 feet from your home, but that's not your property, how does that work out and how can you influence it? And then the kicker on both of those cards is this is quite costly. What are the things we can do to reduce the cost?
Those are great questions. Okay, when it comes down to how we're going to manage trees, there's Assembly Bill 3074. It's a rider to the California Wildland Urban Interface Code. The Board of Forestry has an advisory committee that are talking about Zone 0. They're talking about all the zones and all the spacing and all the trees. It's a contested debate. We are waiting for guidance from them because they may say you can have a certain amount of trees in certain areas. In regards, so the jury's still out on that one. Okay, we're gonna wait. We're gonna make a best judgment. We could talk about the fire code section specifically and how we phrased it and what that means to you. Our assessment is if the vegetation or whatever's in Zone 0 is likely to be ignited by embers. That's a performance assessment. That is not a prescription. So we have to evaluate each home to determine the level of how likely this is to burn, which makes it very challenging. In regards to your neighbor's tree, we receive a lot of complaints about my neighbor. And, you know, when we're out there fielding the complaints of my team of 10, that means we're not doing the work of like a community dump-a-thon where we can remove up to 45 tons of vegetation. We're not going out there and addressing the evacuation route. So what we're doing in the fire department, we're assessing these complaints and we're scoring these complaints based on, is this a low priority, medium priority, or high priority? If you have a complaint, submit your complaint to our website. We will evaluate the location of the complaint, how close it is to the canyon, how much exposure that issue, that violation may expose to the neighborhood, and we'll take action based off of the severity of the risk with that complaint, that violation. That perspective is aligned with the intent behind the new WUI code. The intent behind the WUI code is to reduce the probability of conflagration. That means structure to structure transmission of fire. That's like what happened in the Palisades. That's what happened in Lahaina. When you get one house burning, it starts to burn the next house and the next house over. So we have to be strategic on how we enforce these things, which aligns with the intent of the fire code. Another thing with the fire code is the applicability of enforcement. It states it right there in Chapter 1. Chapter 1 will tell you how we should operate with this. It says the level of enforcement should be completely comparable in correspondence to the level of risk associated with that hazard. It's our job to determine that. So we will take appropriate action based on these risks. But if you have a concern, send it our way via the complaint portal on our website.
Can I just add, it sounds like a bit though you're saying to talk amongst yourselves, work together as a team. I will say, at my house, we had one of those large trees that was kind of in between both our neighbors and ours. We spoke to our neighbor first, said, hey, we're gonna hire someone to come down and trim it. I'd like to trim back on your side. Is that all right? Yeah, absolutely, that's okay. They were in for it. But work together. I know all of you are really particular about how the aesthetics of your home work, but you've got to work together as a team to make your community safer. We're in this together as a community.
I love that. You know, in regards to like what we're trying to do here, in the past, it's been parcel centric. We're looking at this one parcel, but we have to look at it as a community as a whole. And I think the first step is talking to your neighbor and seeing if you can come up to a resolution.
And join your fire safe council to help us have dumpster and chipping events to help carry that part of the cost for that tree trimming.
Yes.
And yeah, thanks for with the city permits. A clarification first. Some materials are fire rated. You said metal fence, but also with Trex decking. I've seen the ABC fire rating and some ambiguities around vinyl. What does that mean, fire rated Class A?
Okay, so a fire rating comes from a test, and essentially what they do is they take this material, they put it into a burn tube, and then they apply heat and flame, and they see how long it takes for it to burn. Like I said, everything burns, but after, is it 1 hour? Is it 2 hours? When it comes to the California WUI Code and how we're going to respond to it, we're looking at the vegetation, the defensible space zone 0. We're not going to be mandating home hardening. It's not part of it for retroactive homes. For new homes moving forward, it's prescriptive. You want to build a housing complex, you can't put anything in the 5 feet. You have to harden the home. You have to meet these building code requirements. That's easy. The hardest part of this code was all of your houses, all the retroactive kind of enforcement of it. We're focused on the zone 0, what we can do there. The defensible space has always been there. And that's where we're going to have to find what is realistic for your pocketbooks, because this stuff is not cheap. And I'm telling you, I'm going to go back to it again. The most impactful thing you can do is the routine maintenance of trimming your trees and raking up your leaves, clearing out your gutters. Those are the most impactful things. Getting all that storage, that stuff you don't really need that sits up against your house, get rid of it or move it out. That will provide the best chance of survivability for your home.
Okay, still a little bit on zone 0. If you have a detached garage or you have a shed, is it 5 feet from beyond that perimeter, or how do those structures work in choosing what to clear?
Yeah, well, so in regards to sheds and outhouses and outbuildings, I would treat it just like my primary home. Embers can still hit that. You know, what tends to happen is when you have one house burning, it's the structure separation distance. How far is that structure from my primary residence? 50 feet, but if it's within 50 feet, do your zone 0 around your shed. Do your zone 0 around your house. It's not gonna hurt you, it's just basic maintenance and cleaning. It's gonna give you the best chance of survivability.
Okay, let's transition to some home hardening questions. So this card just has a list. Attic fans, solar tubes, skylights, those roof whirligig vents. What, are they a problem? Or can we keep them? What do we do?
Okay, so kind of a few things. Skylights.
Sky-
If you're gonna like remodel your house and you have the money, if you have an existing skylight that is made out of plastic, that's fine. Just maintain it. Make sure that it can close. Make sure that it's intact. There's no holes in it. But if you are gonna replace it, we would recommend, and this could come through your home risk assessment, tempered glass. Tempered glass for that. And the other one was the Whirlybird.
Whirlybird.
Solar panels. I have.
Solar tubes, those light solar tubes, and the roof
Yeah.
turbine whirligigs.
You know, and maybe Jordan, if you have anything about solar, I don't recall any type of solar code, building code requirements in regards to, there's no retrofit for that.
And attic fans?
Attic fans, a lot of them are equipped with mesh anyways, but if you don't have mesh to protect the attic fan, 1/8 inch mesh is the industry standard. You know, the thing with attic fans is they push air. We do not want to restrict the air push. It may create other problems down the line for your attic, mold, various things like that. 1/8 of an inch to protect the openings to the outside.
How are these codes reaching manufacturers and vendors and contractors?
Okay, so manufacturers and vendors, there's a whole list of certified vendors at the California State Fire Marshal website. This is about making money for them, their business. They're well aware of these types of things. You can't use these materials in new construction anyways. They're not going to produce this material for them. You can go and ask. You can go to the website and become educated on what is permissible. In regards to contractors, that's the most challenging thing. A lot of times they do not understand the building code. They know how to build houses. They'll do what you tell them to do, but you got to be careful in how you tell them to do that. What we are doing, and we've already done it once, we're going to continue doing this, is workshops for contractors and vendors to understand the basics of the WUI code and how they can actually apply best practices to harden your home and create the defensible space for you.
Before I switch topics, is there a home hardening or zone zero question that, let's have one from the back.
Just a comment. I just recently added this product called Cool Wall Text Code to cedar clapboards on my house. If you're gonna paint your house, it's only about 10% more and it comes with a Class A fire rating. I was looking to put in hardy board siding and that was prohibitively expensive. But this is a cheap alternative, and up until last year, you could actually get a tax credit for energy savings. But it's something to really look at.
Thank you for that. What was it, once again, Cole?
It's called Cool Wall, and it's made by a company called Tex, T-E-X Code, C-O-T.
Texco. Oh, I think I've utilized Texco for the
It's not
floor.
stucco.
Yeah.
Now they can do it on flat wood.
Okay. Awesome.
So that's a fire-resistant paint. I
Yeah,
have a
but-
question here about coatings and other kinds of fire-resistant paint. So they're real, that's the first part?
Well,
My part.
here's the thing.
It's not paint.
The way the fire marshal had it, and I read this in the code, it said that nothing can be applied to a structure to actually increase its fire rating. But these things are constantly changing. So I can't speak with authority. I'm not the code person in my department, but I know I read that. But those things kind of change with innovations and new products. The California State Fire Marshal has approved vendors and approved products to harden your home. I would suggest go to the website, check it out. You know, have your contractor go to the website, check it out, do that work for you, and just verify whatever you're using is approved through the State Fire Marshal.
Thank you.
It's going home hardening, are we all?
Sure, one more home hardening, go for it.
So, well, I've got Canyon Road and Hartson Canyon Road. They use hardy board over windows, because windows have to be double pane or triple pane. Like fire, when it brushes up against the window, it still bursts out the window, allow the fire to go inside. So you can open your curtains, you turn on your AC unit on cold and pressurize your house, keep the smoke and hot water going in. Then you put hardy board, like storm covers, around all the windows, screw them on each side. It keeps the fire from penetrating the window, and the sheriff said it keeps burglars from going to your house because they don't want to take the time to take the boards off your window. So they go to a house that doesn't have boards.
Interesting. You know, let me tell you guys about the house that I did damage assessment on during the last wildfire that burned down. I'll tell you this, the reason why it burned down was from zone 0. It was not, the vegetation within zone 1 was overgrown, but the vegetation did not burn. Where the source of the fire started was accumulation of debris or just kind of junk and trash that gets inside the house. It burned up, demarcation lines on the stucco, but right next to it was a window. And that window was dual pane. It wasn't even dual glaze, it was just a dual pane old window, but that window was intact. The whole house burned down before that window broke, and it was during the overhaul phase of the fire. And that room that was right adjacent to where the fire was at was not burned at all. So these recommendations for dual pane windows, tempered windows, they work, they buy time. That fire was burning freely for quite some time, and it never penetrated the home there. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
I think that was an interesting comment. It was in that it was, if someone has a lot of time
Yes.
and their home is in a very vulnerable place, there might be some extra things they would do. I don't live at that time. I don't know if
Actually,
we're all
CAL
gonna
FIRE has it on their website. There's actually, I think it's on CAL FIRE. They have, if you have 5 minutes, if you have 10 minutes, if you have an hour. And so you can look on their website. There's things like bring in patio furniture inside, so that has less fuel burn. So there are some steps. But what we're talking about here, though, is you may not get that time. Ultimately, getting out sooner than later is more important, right? Because as you all saw, there's congestion when there's evacuation because it could be multiple neighborhoods with limited ways in and out. So there is that, and there's lists of all the things. Turn off your air conditioning is one because it's actually sucking in air from the outside. So they say turn off your vents and air conditioning, but there's a whole list on their website.
So that was CAL FIRE, 5 minute, 10 minute,
Yeah, I think it's
1 hour.
Yeah, they go through different time zones. I can actually bring it up. Give you the website.
Nice. Yeah. I have.
Can I ask one question? We live in Kensington, and there are a lot of undeveloped land on the fire slopes around Kensington. Who's dealing with those to try and make them less of a fire hazard?
You don't want?
Yeah, that's the answer. I'll be honest with you. But here's the thing: we have to determine who owns the land, right? So we're only can really enforce zone 2, which is 100 feet. In some instances, depending on the severity, there's a zone 3 which goes up to 200 feet. But enforceability usually ends at 100 feet. There's also this thing called the MHPA, environmentally sensitive lands, that it plays a factor into these types of things. When we go into, for example, a lot of these open spaces are owned by the city of San Diego, assigned to the open space division, which is under Parks and Rec. They're focused on preserving the environment, and they're not really looking at getting into the canyons and clearing out some of this vegetation. I actually had a conversation with the fire marshal earlier. We were at Golden Hill, and we were looking at one of their canyons, and we have to start doing some work in here. There was a declaration from the governor, we're in a state of emergency regarding these things, and some of the work that we can do in these types of places is CEQA exempt, which is a California Environmental Quality Act, and it kind of dictates when you can and cannot do these things. But part of the removal of dead and dying material, invasive species, that is exempt from CEQA. That it was the exact conversation I had with the fire marshal. I'm going to be reaching out to Fish and Wildlife to show them the proposal, to get them to sign off, because a lot of people are concerned with the government coming down, like, what are you doing to the environmentally sensitive lands? That's a challenging conversation that we're having, but it's critical to reduce the amount of dead and dying material in these canyons.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. I'm going to end this because I think we're getting near our end of our time, but with a question about ignition, specifically people shooting off fireworks, prevention of fireworks, and how the city can impact that.
Well, fireworks are illegal, So when somebody's shooting them off and you witness this, call the police department. And that's it. Thanks, guys. Have a good week. And we have to laugh together, you know? We're trying. I'm like, oh, whew. No, but seriously, in regards to fireworks, that's a tough one because people get them and bring them in, and they like to fire them off during 4th of July. And this year was exceptionally loud. New Year's Eve was crazy, but they are illegal. They're prohibited. We do not do enforcement. The fire department doesn't enforce these types of things, but the police departments, they do. Report it, like, you know.
These are the large commercial fireworks.
Report it.
These are not just the little
Then
sparklers.
I think that would be critical in your report. Hey, they're blowing off mortars. It's a different thing than, you know, be specific. But it just, the reality is it's pretty challenging to enforce a temporary explosion. You've got somebody secured from a different state. Yeah, like that's the, yeah. And they do cause fires, but there's other sources of ignition that we're more concerned with at this time.
And it doesn't change anything about our need to be prepared.
No, it just reinforces it. Create your zone zero.
I think that's a good place to
Yeah.
wrap up, and we can